Good evening, class. How you doing? This is Stefano Raul Bianchi, and I'm gonna talk to you about the option that I chose, which was watching a couple of movies. I actually watched three for the diversity exercise from Professor Ruth Torres at Miami Dade. The movies that I watched were Hotel Rwanda, The Great Debaters, and The Miracle Worker, which is the history of Helen Keller. I'm gonna go and answer the questions. The first one is, what did you learn from these movies? From Hotel Rwanda, I learned and actually I thought about all the impact and consequences of racism at any society. And it can cause genocides, it can cause extermination. It happened in Europe with the Nazis, it happens in Africa, it happened in Yugoslavia, it happened in a lot of places. Racism is a bad thing to do and it leads to genocide. And the worst part, if they think they're doing right. So it's not good at all. The second movie, The Great Debaters. In The Great Debaters, I learned how a group of young, intelligent students, which were Negroes, that's the way they used to call them in those days, they went all the way to Harvard and debated with them about the validity of their point of view, which was justice and equality, for all, according to the Constitution. And they won. They won this debate, and they touched the subject of resistance, either passive like Gandhi or active. So I like the part where he says that I have the not only the right but the duty, you know, to do something about it when there is injustice. So I like that movie. Number three, the third movie, and The Miracle Worker. It tells the story of a young girl which was blind and also deaf mute, and how would you teach someone like that to communicate? It was awesome because in history, Helen Keller became, a very important person in U.S. history. So it was a nice history too. And how did these movies impact you? That's question number two. These movies allow me to understand how damaging are all types of discrimination, from race and gender to discrimination against incapacitated people. I think we are all equal and have the same rights, and just because a person is not whole, that doesn't mean that they don't have feelings and they don't have the same rights like anybody else. And also, we should have in consideration that at any time we could also become disabled due to an accident or a disease, and then nobody's free from this burden. Question number three, research how many citizens in the US have disabilities or impairments and what amount of these are working, what kind of jobs do they have, are they compensated and treated equally as those without disabilities. I did a research, and according to the US Department of Labor and Statistics, 17.8% of people with disabilities were employed in 2012, and 13.4% were unemployed. Also, according to the census, the U.S. Census, there are 56.7 million people living in the United States that have some form of a disability, and 38.3 million are severely disabled. Not to mention all these soldiers that come from war and they're disabled, and all these older people as we all age, and besides people that have accidents or problems, and become disabled. There are several kinds of jobs that these people are doing and they can do, and they mostly succeed in sales, in telemarketing, in customer service, because they have a lot of empathy. According to the government, they're treated equally, but in general, the difficulties that pose for any employer makes it hard to believe. I believe that if any employee has the option of hiring someone that is not disabled and someone that is disabled, it will take the easier way, which is go with a non-disabled, not disabled person, because it's less difficult. And I think it's not right. A lot of people with disabilities are not working because besides their handicap, many of them have problems of mobility or other problems related to their disability. And besides, the level of compensation makes it many times irrelevant to work or not to work, because they earn almost the same, so they choose not to work. And not last but not least, there are some people that they get they get the benefits from disability, but they also work under the table and they get double income, which is totally wrong. Question number 4. I did not have a chance to interview a person with disabilities, so I'm going to skip that one. And question number 5. If you become disabled or severely impaired, how do you think, or how do you hope you will handle it? I think that's a very hard question. I like freedom. I like my mobility, independence, and be able to do whatever I want and go wherever I want. So, and not to bother anybody. So that would be very difficult for me, I believe. And if it happened, I would have to get counseling, get I would have to go to rehabilitation, and I would just seek to inform myself about it. And also I would join other people with disabilities to play sports, help each other. And I think where there is life, there is hope. So I will still fight back. Question number 6. As a result of this experience, how will it affect the way you interact with others? I think this is a very positive exercise, because it helps us realize things that we take for granted in our regular life because we don't stop for a minute to think about it. Racism, discrimination in all forms, people with disabilities. We have to get ourselves in their shoes. I mean, not everyone stops and think about this and treat people right without having this kind of information. It's much better for us to get ourselves in their shoes and understand and be nicer to them. I wrote, a little empathy goes a long way. Getting yourself in their situation, avoid discrimination in all forms is essential to live in peace, justice, and harmony in a better society. And question number 7, as a result of this experience, how will it affect the way you will recruit and manage people when you are a manager or employer? I believe after getting all this information and getting to know all the consequences of discrimination and also the people with disabilities and the way they're in a way discriminated against, I think I would not do that. I would institute trainings and information to the employees, and I would discourage at all levels any form of discrimination. I think not only because it's the right thing to do, but also because it could become a problem, not only for the feelings of the people that are disabled or discriminated against, but also it could become a problem for the company. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you like this, and I'll see you in class. Thank you very much. Have a great week.